Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. It appears we have our thumper Steelers Nation. The Steelers are signing linebacker Ja'Whaun Bentley, longtime veteran, to the roster today. And I'm really excited about this move, guys. I think that this is a much needed move based on what we've seen from the linebacker play, especially in run defense over the first 2 weeks from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And once they can get Bentley ramped up, I have a feeling that he's going to be a big part of this Steelers defense this year. And to get a player of this caliber, at this point, after week 2, I think that this is going to be a big time signing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button, because every time the con artist strikes, every time that he makes a big move this season, we're going to get you guys a video, whether I'm here at home, whether I'm in the studio like we did for the Isaiah Hodgins news earlier today, whether I'm on vacation, whatever the case may be. If breaking news happens for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to get you guys a video for free on this channel. So join the over 94,000 subscribers that have already clicked that subscribe button and join the Steelers Talk family today. All right, so now let's get into the news here. All right, Ja'Whaun Bentley, longtime veteran in the National Football League, formerly with the New England Patriots. Last year, he tore his pectoral muscle in week 2 of the 2024 season, was out for the rest of the year, did not play the rest of the way. And then the team with the new regime coming in with Mike Vrabel decided to let him go during the offseason. So he is somebody that is a little bit older, but he is somebody with a ton of experience. And even going into last year, he was still considered one of the best thumping linebackers in the National Football League just last year, going into the year. So as long as that pectoral muscle is healthy, and I'm guessing the Steelers brought him in for a visit today to see how that pec was, and to do the physical and do all those things. And apparently it checked out. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to bring to the table, because I think, we have seen through the first 2 weeks here, guys, that the Steelers have really been missing Elandon Roberts' presence and role inside this Steelers defense. Elandon, wasn't a good pass defender, but man, he was an absolute menace against the run. He was super savvy, super instinctual, super aggressive, but aggressive in a smart way, not aggressive in a dumb way where he's abandoning run fits and allowing big-time runs. Elandon, another thing about him was that he was big. He was 250 plus pounds, and he could absolutely move people backwards in the run game as an inside linebacker. So that early down role was really important for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, especially when you got a guy like Ja'Whaun Bentley playing in the middle, that's not the most impactful as a, nose tackle, holding the line of scrimmage, that type of thing. You need kind of a big-time thumping linebacker in there to kind of counteract that if you're going to really commit to putting Ja'Whaun Bentley out there as a 3-down player. And the Steelers didn't have that through the first 2 weeks. You have Patrick Queen out there who's an undersized linebacker, and then you have Peyton Wilson, who did put on some poundage this offseason, but he's also kind of under, he's definitely not at the strength level or at the size level that he needs to be either in terms of functional strength. And then, we saw on film that Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson were out of position multiple times in week 1. And then in week 2, Patrick Queen figured it out, and he actually had some really nice plays in week 2 against Seattle. But then Peyton Wilson was continuing to struggle, taking bad pursuit angles, all those different things. And, he was getting pushed backwards a lot. And it's just not conducive for good run defense. And if you don't have a good run defense, I think we've seen over these first 2 weeks, guys, this pass rush isn't going to be able to be as effective as you want it to be, because the opposing team can just run it right down your throat, get explosive run after explosive run. I think the Steelers defense leads the league in explosive runs allowed through the first 2 weeks. So something had to change. And I think that out of the options out there, Ja'Whaun Bentley is definitely the best option that's still out there. I actually couldn't believe he was still out there and available when Aaron Wilson, I believe it was, had the report today that he was visiting the Steelers. And once that name popped up, I'm like, oh man, we got to sign this guy if he's healthy, because man, he is 250 pounds, just like Elandon is, super smart, super savvy, like Elandon was. And sure, in hindsight, Should the Steelers have just re-signed Elandon Roberts, especially at the low cost that the Raiders signed him for this offseason? Yes, 100%. They should have brought back Elandon Roberts. And, they brought in Malik Harrison, and, they were kind of hoping that Peyton Wilson was going to be able to be a three-down player, and they were hoping that Patrick Queen was going to be able to do that as well. But obviously that plan is just not going according to plan right now, and it's pretty obvious after 2 weeks that plan is not going to work long-term for this defense. So I've suggested on Steelers Twitter that they should start playing Cole Holcomb on early downs and then playing Peyton Wilson in a kind of passing down, third down type of role like he did last year when Elandon was here. And honestly, that was the perfect setup, right? Because you got Patrick Queen, who's the guy that's making the money at the position. He's your every down player. The quote-unquote quarterback of the defense, as Mike Tomlin likes to put it. Then Elandon was out there to thump on early downs and get them in the third down and in passing situations, and then they would take him off, bring on Peyton Wilson, who's actually a pretty good cover player, and he did some really good things in his rookie season. So I like the idea of going back to that with Wilson just not looking comfortable out there, not taking good pursuit angles, not being a good run defender to start this season. A change needed to be made, and you needed to kind of go back to the old plan and bring in a thumper here. And thank God Ja'Whaun Bentley was still available. So is it possible that he's old and he's washed and he's not going to be able to stay healthy and all these different things? Yeah, that's a possibility, but it's nice to have a guy like Cole Holcomb in there, where even though he's also getting older and he's coming off a really terrible knee injury. We all know about. It's nice to have some nice depth in this inside linebacker room, because you're still going to get Malik Harrison back too, who's an awesome special teamer, and as a fifth linebacker, that is about as good as you can possibly get in terms of a fifth linebacker. So I'm actually kind of really liking this linebacker room for the Pittsburgh Steelers as it stands here today. I think that the way that it's going to break down once Bentley gets kind of ramped up is it's going to be a very similar rotation as it was last year. You have Patrick Queen in that every down role. Bentley will be in that thumping, hammer type of role on early downs. And then when you're in a position where you feel like the opposing offense is going to go out and throw the football, you put Peyton Wilson out there, whether that's second and long, whether that's third and medium, third and long situations. And I think that that's a good distribution of work for this group. Not only does that fit the talents of this room better than what their current situation was, but it also keeps guys fresher as the season goes on. Also, it makes this team more injury-proof. If there's an injury somewhere, there's multiple guys that can fill different spots. And this is where having a guy like Cole Holcomb is super valuable for this defense, because Cole is pretty decent against the run and pretty decent against the pass. He's not really great in one particular area. So if Peyton Wilson goes down with an injury or Patrick Queen goes down with an injury, right, you can interject Cole Holcomb into really whatever role you want, and he's going to do a good enough job to get the job done in that scenario. So that's really nice to have. And then having a guy like Malik Harrison as well as a special teamer and as another depth piece at linebacker, whenever he gets back healthy, is going to be a good thing for this defense. So really, really like the signing, guys. Adding a thumper like this, 250-plus pounder, that's maybe not the best in pass defense. He's kind of similar to Elandon in that regard. I actually do think he's better in pass defense than Elandon was. I don't think he's quite the thumper and quite the run defender Roberts was. But maybe a little bit more of a balanced product there, which should be good for when teams want to do play action and do the things, the passing stuff on first down against the Steelers. So I really do like this signing, guys, in terms of a week 3 signing. I don't know if there's going to be a more impactful signing this week across the National Football League. And then that's not even taking into account here the other signings that the Steelers have made over the last 2 weeks. Of course, they bring in Jabril Peppers, Bentley's former teammate, there with the New England Patriots, and Peppers is expected to be ramped up this week, and he's probably going to be playing quite a bit, not only potentially as a special teams player, as a kick returner, but also as a strong safety, of course, with Deshaun Elliott still out. So Peppers seems like he's picked up the defense quite well, and it seems like he's going to get some run here in week 3, and he's going to be a great defensive chess piece to use. He's also a really good run defender, great tackler, so he'll help out in that regard as well. So to get these two former Patriots, that have been really good defenders in this league for a long time, experienced veterans, You're not going to have to worry about them too much in terms of knowing what to do out there. I just really like these two defensive signings. And then we covered it earlier on the show today, Isaiah Hodgins. And I've been seeing a lot of sarcastic remarks. Oh, another wide receiver why can't we get a number 2 receiver? Blah, 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 blah. Hodgins, for what he is a good signing, guys. All right. And, at this point in the process, you're not going to find a number 2 receiver in free agency. You're just not. So to get a guy like Hodgins, who has some really good experience and honestly brings a skill set that, is lacking in this receiver room. This receiver room has only deep threats and mostly smaller receivers outside of Deke Metcalf, who's more of a limited route tree type of guy, true vertical threat, true yak threat when you get the ball in his hands in space. And then you got Skoranek, who's more of a blocking specialist, not much of a route runner, not much of a hands threat, not much of a speed threat either. You get a guy in Isaiah Hodgins who actually is a threat with his route running to the short and intermediate levels of the field. That is something that this team has really needed. He's somebody that brings good size and run blocking to the table. So if the Steelers want to go condensed and they want to put out 2 receivers out there that can run block, Hodgins can absolutely do that. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. He's got really reliable hands. For me, he's a light version of Adam Thielen, is a good way to think of him. He's not fast. He's not a vertical threat or anything like that, but the Steelers have plenty of those, right? What they needed was somebody that with reliable hands, somebody that could throw up a ball down the sideline too, or on a corner route or on an out route and make a tough catch over the middle as well. He's got a very extensive route tree in the short and intermediate game, and he's a run blocker too. So if Deke Metcalf goes down with an injury, you don't have to put Ben Skoranek out there at X receiver. Hodgins is certainly someone that can play X. And he's certainly someone that you can put in the slot in certain situations, and you can use as a true rotational situational piece. And at this point in the offseason, guys, where there's no legit number 2 receivers left available in free agency and no one's trading anybody at this point, adding a guy like Hodgins is, I think, a pretty decent signing for this football team. And for the vet minimum, there's really no reason not to take a shot on somebody that you think can be a good fit inside this offense. So obviously this team is still relying on Calvin Austin III to step up and be this team's true number 2 receiver. He looked like that week 1. He did not look like that in week 2. Hopefully he can find a little bit more consistency as the season goes on. I will say there was some good moments on film from Calvin getting open and all those sorts of things. It just didn't go his way. And then, of course, he had the weird kind of tip-up interception as well. So hopefully Calvin continues to kind of show Steelers fans and Aaron Rodgers and this entire Steelers team that he can be this team's number 2 receiver, because I do think he has the ability to do it. But Hodgins brings a bit more size, which is something that I think this team needed in terms of their rotational and backup type of players. You get that now with Hodgins. You get somebody with really good hands, someone that can be a red zone threat as well. I think it's a pretty decent depth signing. And if you can't appreciate a good depth signing, I don't know what to say, man. But I think that the Steelers have made some pretty darn good moves here, acquiring some veterans I think can help them win football games. Are any of these guys going to be the best player on your team or on your unit? No, probably not. But are these guys capable of playing, crucial roles within their little niches there, and helping this team win football games and help this team be a more complete football team? 100%. So I think that Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have been doing a pretty decent job here over the last 2 weeks, finding players that can help them win ball games. We'll see if Bentley can be ramped up in time to play on Sunday versus the Patriots. I'm sure he wants to play against his former team that let him go. It'd be pretty cool to see Bentley and Peppers get their revenge against their former team in this football game. But Peppers didn't have much of a role last week. Pretty much no role, in fact. And Bentley's going to be here. He's going to just have a couple days of practice. So honestly, I would kind of expect to see Cole Holcomb in that kind of early down linebacker role early, because it certainly seems like the Steelers are realizing that Peyton Wilson out there on early downs and in run-heavy situations is a no-go moving forward. So I would expect a higher workload for Cole Holcomb on Sunday. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we just don't see Bentley at all this week, and then they ramp him up for the Dublin game. But I do expect to see Peppers. I do expect him to play probably more than Chuck Clark does. I thought Chuck did an okay job last week, but certainly not dynamic by any stretch of the imagination. Peppers can help them out in run defense as well. So looking forward to this week's game, guys. Looking forward to seeing what these guys can do in a Steelers uniform this year. And that's going to be it for our second breaking news video of the day right here on Steelers Talk. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Also check out our previous two videos. We put out our Week 3 preview, Steelers versus Patriots, this morning, and then we put out an Isaiah Hodgins reaction video earlier today as well. So if you want to check out those two videos, I greatly appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And until then, guys, here we go, Steelers.